and welcome to the Feel Strong Fitness Podcast. My name is Justin McClintock, and this week we have personal trainer, sports nutritionist, weight loss, pre- and postnatal coach, keynote speaker, workshop facilitator, co-owner of Made by Me Coaching, author of the bestseller book, To Your Health, and the host of To Your Health podcast, Esther Avant. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this. So we know each other sort of tangentially. We're part of a larger coaching group, but haven't spent a lot of time with each other. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
One of the things that I was excited about this podcast for is both of us have been coaching for a while. We've been in the game for a bit, have seen some things come and go. And I've noted going through your Instagram and listening to a bunch of your podcasts and things like that, a lot of commonalities. And it is a reliance coming back to sort of the basics and big rocks of what is actually effective. And correct me where I'm wrong, because I might be putting my own filter on this, but being really drawn to practicality and results over almost anything else.
Completely agree. And I think the probably the longer you coach, the more kind of steadfast you feel in those things, that you just see how much noise is out there, and you see what your clients are coming to calls with of, oh, should I be getting one of these, or should I be taking the supplement? And you're just like, nope, you should be doing the big things that we talk about every single week. You should be, prioritizing your protein and fiber. You should be getting in your steps and your strength. Let's just put blinders on and focus on those things and give it long enough that you can see that it works and that can actually feel relatively simple and easy a lot of the time, and then go from there. And sometimes you feel like you're kind of a broken record saying those things over and over.
Completely. And I find it interesting. I sometimes felt some imposter syndrome, let's say 15 years ago, where I would come and say, no, you just have to exercise 3 times a week for 30 minutes and monitor your protein and overall calories and care about your sleep and recovery. And that's 85 to 90% of it. Like, if you do that, you will look, feel, and perform incredibly. And then I will spend all day on the last 10% if we get there. I feel like certainly in the last decade, having a little perspective, we're now kind of a niche and interesting, and these weird outliers who aren't telling people to microdose GLP-1s and create weird smoothies with things that don't actually do anything and aren't fiber anymore, and all of these bizarre things that people are hanging their hats on. And that is, I am a hormone coach, I'm a cortisol coach, these very particular kind of faddish things, which have kernels of truth and relevance to them, but really aren't where you want to spend most of your time. People like ourselves, and tell me anytime if I'm unfairly grouping you with myself, but who come back to the basics and are really kind of results oriented, are now a little bit of a niche and a subcategory, which I never really expected.
Yeah, it is really interesting. And I think, with the rise of social media and influencers, and a lot of people's credibility is based on their follower count. So, you have these people with 6-7 figures of followers saying, oh, you need to buy my hormone supplements or my cortisol supplements or whatever it is. And it's like, they have such numbers that people are like, oh, that must be what I need. And then you're over here like, yeah, I'm just a regular person just saying what I said for the last 20 years. And it's like, you must not really understand it. It can be frustrating to just feel like you're kind of shouting into the abyss. Like, you don't need all of these things. But somebody's got to be saying it.
Yeah, 100%. And with the sort of results oriented mindset, I don't want to keep people from things that work. I would, if it worked, I try very hard to be open-minded. If I find a new tool, into the toolbox it goes. I will immediately start using it with people. Clients who I've had for 8 years will suddenly get new modalities because, oh, I learned something. This is effective.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's safe and a good idea for you. Away we go. But the shiny things are often just that, and so tempting. And the boring answer, and we've said it on the podcast before, is that the long way around is actually the shortcut.
Yeah, that's part of what's so frustrating is, yes, live and let live, and people need to kind of forge their own path, and that's windy and it has switchbacks and you get lost a little bit, and hopefully you eventually end up where you're going. But it can be hard to see people repeating that pattern when you're just like, I know there's a better way. I can I can help you figure this out. But you're absolutely right. It comes back to getting results. And the reason that I like the term big rocks is there's
Yeah.
this, I don't even remember exactly what the anecdote is, but essentially, like, if you've got an empty jar and you're trying to fill it, the most efficient way to do that is to put the big rocks in first. And yes, there are going to be some gaps in there, which means that if you want, you can put in some pebbles and sand, some of that smaller stuff. Like you said, we do the 85% with the big rocks. And then if you want to get into the nitty gritty, you think that's interesting, you like to experiment on yourself, amazing. We can do that too. But for most people who want to feel strong, be strong, look good, feel good, once you get that 85% done, you're like, yeah, I'm pretty good. I don't really want to put that energy into that last 10%. I'd rather put it elsewhere. And when you have somebody who finally gets it, that's what makes it all worthwhile. And you're like, all right, I will continue to say this for the next 10 years.
Exactly. What are some strategies or approaches you use maybe with people when they come to you and they've gone through, I don't know about yourself. I'm no one's first port of call. But by the time someone gets to me, they've tried a bunch of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And they're frustrated, and they might feel like a failure, or nothing's been working, and I might even be kind of their last ditch effort, which is perfect.
Mm.
I want to be the last coach you hire anyway. I know this is something you
Mm.
also say. I'm going to be your last coach. We're going to make this a thing you can do for the rest of your life. You're not going to pay me for the rest of your life. We are going to have some effects.
Mm-hmm.
When someone comes to you and they've done all of the stuff, whatever it is, they've done the hormones, they've done the keto, and they've done the carnivore, and they've done the 75 hard, and they've tried some pretty intense things and still feel like it isn't working. How do you take them from that place of intensity and short-term feedback to these bigger inputs?
Yeah. I think part of what's frustrating is that most people, by the time they arrive with someone like us, who's the kind of the grounded, practical, they, in addition to kind of the extremes, they also do have some experience with kind of the basics of tracking their food, of strength training. They're not total noobs in that regard either. But I think what draws them to extremes is like maybe they tried that and feel like it didn't work. So then they're like, all right, well, now I need to look for something else. And they get kind of further and further from the target. So I think part of what's hard is when you're kind of reintroducing someone to something that they feel like has already failed them. And that you're
Yeah.
bringing them back to basics, but they feel like, no, that's just another thing that I've already done and doesn't work for me. Why don't you have anything new for me? I'm used to always jumping to another new thing. So I think there's a lot of kind of, I don't know, the best way to put it is like helping people develop some self-awareness, but there can be some kind of difficult conversations around, you may have tried it before, but were you doing it correctly, to the best of your ability,
Yeah.
objectively, and for long enough that you were able to see what was working, what wasn't, and then iterate on it and continue with it? Because generally the answer is no. Generally is, I saw some influencers say I should track my macros, so I downloaded my Fitness Pal and I put in the easy stuff, and I got frustrated at dinner because my husband cooked it and I didn't know what was in it, so I didn't do that. And then we went out over the weekend and I had no idea how to track that, so I've been partially tracking for the last 6 months and nothing has changed, so therefore the tracking doesn't work. So a lot of it is kind of that conversation around, all right, we're gonna use this tool again, but I'm going to teach you how to use the tool so it's actually effective, and you're not just frustrated that you're walking around with this tool belt that is just burdening you. So I think that's one piece of it. I think also kind of helping people remember what it was like when they were doing the extreme things, and keep continuing to bring them back to, what is the life that you want to be living? When you were keto and when you couldn't do carbs, what was that like when you went out with your family? What was that like when it was your kid's birthday? What were the times that really felt like a sacrifice? And sure, there's something to be said for kind of doing something with more commitment or something maybe more extreme in the short term, but like, what's the long-term strategy? How were you, if that was how you were going to get the results, what was the strategy for maintaining them? And just kind of helping people step outside themselves and zoom out a little bit and really see that, like, all right, none of that stuff was going to be sustainable for me. And I'm not giving up on this being a goal for me. So I'm left with needing to commit to an alternative. And if my new coach, are presenting me with that alternative and giving me reassurances that you'll help me figure it out for myself, I guess here I am. I'll give it a shot.
It's such a difference from getting buy-in to, we're going to lose 20 pounds, or I'm going to give you a six pack, or we're going to do whatever those things are, versus we're going to create the kind of life that you want to live. And
Hmm.
all of this is going to be part of it, and some of what you're going to use to live that life. The point isn't the wins in the gym. The point isn't what you weigh or your body composition. That's tools and benchmarks we will happen to hit along the way. But we're going for this happy, functional, capable person with great relationships who enjoys their community and can sleep at night.
I have a perfect real world example of that. My 6-year-old son and I have been traveling alone recently, and we were at the airport. I had to carry both of our carry-on size bags up a couple flights of stairs, and was just thinking to myself, like, this is why I work out. Like, yes, it feels good to lift heavier. Yes, it feels good to like see my muscles. But what really feels good is to be this like strong, independent person who doesn't have to like flag down a man and be like, can you please help us? Or, try to go out of our way to find an elevator. And the coolest part was that once we got back home, I was working out and my son came out into the garage for something, and he always tries to encourage me, and he said something like, you do this so that you can carry our bags at the airport, or like something that like indicated he was putting it together. And I was like, you're exactly
Yeah.
right. That like that's why. Yes, the benchmarks, like you said, and the metrics are cool, and it's very helpful to be able to gauge, is what I'm doing having an impact? But where you really notice it the most is when you're like, I got to get that 40-pound bag of dog food out of the trunk and into the house. Like, yeah, I can do that. Or, I can pick up my now too big kid to be picking up very often,
Right.
and I can carry him into the house when I need to. Like, that's when you're just like, okay, such a bigger reason to care about my health than just my size or my weight.
That's an amazing example, first of all, and leads me to something. I know we both work with a lot of moms, and I am maybe predictably not a mom. I don't even have kids, but I find it sometimes a two-sided approach, both sides of which are really important, because very frequently a lot of the moms who come to me have put a significant amount of sort of selfishness on hold to do everything else. I'm going to aim all of my energy and all of my opportunity and all of my money, and everything I'm doing is to help the family and my offspring, but everyone else. I'm going to show up for everybody else. And they start feeling less in some way or not enough. And something happens. Often they get a little bit more time, or the kid goes into daycare for the first time. Something happens which they sense an opportunity and raise their hand and say, I want to work on me. And tying those two pieces together of, it's really good to be selfish. You need time for you. We should work on you. You should feel good about yourself. You should enjoy this. And by the way, doing this is going to let you show up here the way you actually want to. Like,
Yeah.
this is going to make you so much better. And what you're even describing is modeling this behavior for your young child, who's recognizing it and putting it together. And not only is mom working out normal and cool and a thing that just, of course, happens. Why wouldn't my mom strength train? But realizing that, oh, because my mom strength trains, she can do all this other stuff that I notice probably not everyone can do. People are getting stuck at the bottom of the stairs, or asking for help, or using the little drive-through thing when their legs work perfectly fine. Does this resonate for you? Kind of those two sides of working with moms?
So much. Yeah, there's so much mental work, and I'm sure you notice that as well, that people may come to you saying like, I just want a meal plan, just tell me what to eat, just give me the workouts, and I'll just do what you tell me because I'm a people pleaser and I don't want to let you down, and like, just tell me what to do. And the reality of it is, so much of our interactions with clients are completely unrelated to the exercise and nutrition stuff. It's the mental work of, I skipped a workout because my kid needed me, and I feel guilty when I'm not doing this, or I feel bad when I'm not doing that. And just like so much, the lion's share of work that needs to be done is in our heads. And once we work through that and commit to continuing to working through that, the what to do gets so much easier.
Yes, it's not. I often say, as someone who spends the majority of his time programming and writing programs and giving feedback on it, the program isn't the magic.
Right.
That's not, it's important and I spend a lot of time on it, but you believing it's going to work, you trusting in yourself that you can do the work, and you understanding and deeply owning that that consistency and showing up is going to pay off in the long run. That's what actually makes the program work. It's not that technical tempo cool movements I come up with at all.
I remember when I was a very new personal trainer, like 2006, 2007-ish, I was constantly stressing about programming and, wanting to write the perfect programs. And I remember reading a blog from John Goodman. This was in the PTDC
Mhm.
days, well before any of his certifications or anything. He talked about his early experience as a trainer and that he would have, these mesocycles and these microcycles and just everything like down to a T in these spreadsheets. And then his clients would show up and be like, oh yeah, I went on vacation. I didn't do anything for 10 days. And he'd just be like, it's all ruined. And how much he realized, like, I'm not working with professional athletes here who are going to show up for every session and give 100%. These are real people with a lot of demands on their time. It's less about, like you said, the perfect exercise and the perfect order and the tempo and this, all this, and more so like, how do I get people to show up, 3 times a week for 30 minutes
Yeah.
and just do that consistently? And I know that, basically any program will work pretty successfully if I just get you to show up.
Yeah, and that's I think that is the magic of everything Feel Strong does is one-on-one, like hyper custom work. But a big part of that is when someone shows up on a Monday and says, "Yeah, I didn't sleep this weekend. The kid is sick. I'm moving. My boss is yelling at me. The dog is not doing well, and my husband, frankly, isn't helping." I am completely prepared to throw the plan in the trash and be like, "Oh, well, we're not doing any of that. I
Right.
had this like wild squat day planned, and we're not. I'm probably not putting weight on your back. We're going to do some breath work and a walk, and I'm probably going to talk to you for 10 minutes, and then we're going to see where it goes." And trying to find, it's not that I'm taking it easy on you because I'm not. What we're doing is trying to find exactly the right thing that fits in your life as your life is today, not when you signed up 10 weeks ago and you told me about these amazing goals you have, but right now, how can we meet you exactly where you are and challenge you enough, but not push you over your capacity that leads to injury and fatigue and depression and burnout and all of the nasty stuff, which you've experienced before. We don't have to go back there to know what it feels like. That kind of push pull is that's what real world work outside of, like you said, like working with a bunch of college athletes in a lab where they'll happily wear oxygen monitors for 8 hours. That's what working with real people and getting results actually looks like.
I have a term I call compassionate ownership, which is exactly
Mhm.
what you just used as an example. And I feel like by modeling that for clients, you help them see that it's possible. Because so often we're used to either letting ourselves or having other people let us completely off the hook. Oh, you had a hard day. Let's just skip today, get some rest, we'll try again. Right? It's a lot of compassion, but then there's no kind of ownership of like, well, I got to do something. Or we're used to sort of being forced to be the exact same and do the exact same day in and day out. I'm committed to this 75 hard, or I'm doing this 30-day challenge at the gym, and it's, no pain, no gain. Doesn't matter if you haven't slept in 3 weeks, you're doing exactly what we programmed. And if not, you're weak and you're always going to be a failure. That's a ton of, of ownership and no compassion. So clients, I think, coming to us are used to both of those extremes, both from other people and from themselves, where it's, I'm giving everything or I'm giving nothing and there's no in between. So when you, as a good coach, meet them where they are and show them that that's an option, it like opens up this whole world for them of like, oh, he's listening to me. He's understanding that I don't have the same to give today as I did last week, but he's also not letting me completely off the hook and saying, well, do nothing and we'll try again when life calms down, because life is not going to calm down. He's showing me the messy middle. He's showing me the shades of gray in between. And as I get more experience with that, I'm better able to then do that in my own life where, I meal prepped my lunch and then I left it at home. And normally I would like berate myself and then go get a double cheeseburger. And now I'm like, hey, you know what? People make mistakes. People forget their lunches. It's no big deal. Could I swing by a grocery store and get a bagged salad and some deli meat and, call it a day? And I think the magic in coaching is showing those possibilities to clients by exemplifying them and treating them, mirroring the way you want them to ultimately treat themselves, and giving them some experience with like, okay, I'd never really considered that before.
Compassionate ownership, that's a beautiful term. I'm probably going to steal some part of that because it puts the two together so well. It is a lot of empathy and a lot of understanding and a lot of listening put together with, hey, you came to me for a reason. You said you wanted this, and lots of people, I think coaches need coaches too. I have a coach, like, it's understandable that you couldn't do exactly what you wanted on your own. That's my job. I had a client who, she's still a client. She's been a client for years. During her first pregnancy, she had terrible morning sickness, just every single day, and often throughout the day. It wasn't just morning sickness, just completely beat her up, really hard to keep things down. And we had 6 a.m. sessions, I think 3 times a week before she went to work. And I got a call at, 5:30 one morning, and she basically said, I'm I'm so sick. I'm so tired. I know we've been doing this for a while, but like, I don't think I can do it. Oh, okay, totally. So you're calling out of work, right? And there was a long silence. She said, well, no, I'm going to work. I said, wait a minute. You're going to work? Don't you have like a 10-hour day? She's like, yes. Oh, well, then you need to come to the gym. If you're good enough. And it was like, I wasn't mean. And she showed up. I think we like sat on a bike for 15 minutes and did some gentle movement and some breath work and some other things. And she felt better at the end of it and was so proud of herself for showing up when it was okay. And I was really clear, like, if you were going to call out of work, I would have high-fived. I'm not going to charge you. Good call. Thank you for letting me know. No problem. But this can't be the thing that falls out
Mm,
because you told me you're training to have an amazing birth. So this is what it's going to be like sometimes. We can't wait till you don't, till you feel great, because that could be 13 months from now for all I know.
right. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And talk about showing up for a client when they need you the most. I think that's something, and I don't know how many years ago it was, but I think that's a sign of a seasoned coach, that when you're new, you just never want to step on any toes or upset a client, and you're thinking like, oh, well, I don't want them to stop paying me, so I'm just gonna, kind of tiptoe around things. But what she needed was that reminder of, yeah, it's one thing if you like you can't do today and it's gonna be a bad day, okay. But yeah, for your self-care to be the thing that is falling off, no, that's not okay. And as a person who believes in you and cares about you and is committed to helping you see these goals through, I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't bring that to your attention. So cool.
And it's it's trying to do the right thing no matter what for someone, which is, and I wonder if there's coaches who listen to this too, and as someone who's been in business for a while, maybe you can speak to this. There, especially with newer coaches, there can be a tension with that. A friend of mine who he used to own some group gyms, and he would always say, I care deeply about my members. I don't care at all about their memberships, which was his way
Mm,
of separating. People are going to come and go. Some people are going to stop paying me. I, I don't. I am not going to make any decisions based on that. I'm going to make all of my decisions based on what I think is the right thing for these people based on their stated goals. And if I keep doing that, things are going to kind of work out.
yeah.
Do you ever feel that tension of wanting to give people the things they ask for versus the things that you believe they actually need, or be nice to them, let them off the hook, and not kind of hold them, not to the fire but in a warm area, to get them moving in a way that they need but might be uncomfortable and might lead to some challenging conversations?
hmm And I think, just like a lot of the work our clients have to do is mental, coaches also have mental work to do around things exactly like that, separating your your worth and your value from your job, really getting clear on what value it is that you provide to clients, because like we were talking about, it's not the programming, it's not the recipes. Like, how is it that you actually help your clients? What is it that they're paying for at the end of the day? And it's tough when it does feel like, for for coaches like us, it does feel like there's kind of a disconnect between what people want and what they need. And I remember a business coach that I worked with years ago, kind of stressing selling people what they want and giving them what they need, and finding kind of that middle ground where you're not baiting and switching people of like, oh yeah, yeah, sure, we'll do that, and you give them something entirely different. You, like the term you just used, you meet them where they are, and you sort of offer little bits of what they need, and sort of get them hooked on it of like, okay, yeah, of course we can talk about the about superfoods, of course we can talk about fat burning workouts, and you start to give like these little nuggets of the mindset work, or kind of the small steps, or whatever it is that they need. um and I think there is kind of that push pull, and you have a lot of the same conversations over and over again. You can have 1,000 conversations with a client about the scale, where they come in and they say it's not the most important thing, but the thing they're bent out of shape every week about is that the scale isn't moving. And you can keep bringing them back to, okay, but you did say it's more about how you're feeling and how your clothes are fitting. And like, sometimes you just need to be prepared for having that conversation repeatedly. You think about your own insecurities, or the things that come up for you over and over again, and it's just like, you need to be kind of the steadfast rock in their life who is continuing to bring them back to what they said. You're listening, you're reiterating, and you're reminding them, here's what you said to me. Because it's one thing to say it, is another thing to feel it in the moment. So sometimes it's just like, yeah, gear yourself up for round 57 of the scale does not define you, and here we are.
We're talking about drinking water again. Here we go.
Right. And what's funny too is like, when there's like eventually the light bulb moment, and they'll come back one day and they'll be like, I have been drinking more water this week and I feel so good. And you're just like, well, I'm glad we got here.
Yeah, and the move there, for it sounds like you too. The move there is like awesome, amazing, high five, let's keep it up. It's
Yeah.
not, we talked about this 50 I have been saying this for a year. In the
Right.
same way you described earlier, if someone comes and says, I just want some fat burning workouts, a newer coach, or probably Justin 20 years ago, would have said, there's no such thing as fat burning workouts. Actually, if you do, and just, I want to smash my head against the wall just thinking about what I would say. But saying, great, cool, okay, I'm into that. Why? Where are we going? And setting expectations and having big conversations up front, the very beginning of the relationship, and teasing all of that stuff out, which most of the time, for people who are a good fit to work with me at least, ends up with, oh, okay, so if you had more energy and felt good about the way you looked, and were able to model stuff for your kids, and could play pickleball twice a week, and slept really well, if we checked all of those boxes, that would be 100% win. We're cool with that. Yeah, that would be great. It's like, okay, because we didn't say change what you weigh. We didn't say fit into jeans. We didn't say any of that stuff. It's, well, no, I mean, that would be amazing. I assume if I get there, other good things will happen. Yeah, you're probably right. And then you can come back in those hard moments, because progress is not linear. Like, it goes up and down, and especially with real life butting in. So when things are hard and people have fallen off the rails a little bit, you can say, hey, you told me the most important thing was to show up for your family and your kids and feel good about how you were doing this stuff, not to be 125 pounds versus 126.5. Is that still true, or have things changed? And let them tell you, no, I'm just having a day. Great, I've had days. Totally been there. Yep,
Yeah. And
100%. I am
often,
not immune to any of this.
right, often people don't have someone in their life who is that kind of sounding board and mirror for them. They either have kind of the adversaries that they're always butting heads against, or they have like the yes people who were just like, okay, yeah, whatever you want. But to have somebody who is unrelated to the rest of your life, who knows you on this kind of deeper level, knows your wants and your needs, and their like sole purpose in your life is to remind you of those things and help you get there. That's what makes coaching so valuable.
I completely agree. We had someone on the podcast a few weeks ago, and I mentioned talking about someone was having a hard time with their boss, and we were kind of like role playing what the conversation was going to be like with their boss, who was pushing more and more on their plate in a way that was totally unsustainable. And I said, I've had jobs, I've had bad bosses. Do you want to go through this? Because this is our nothing we do is going to work if you're working 110 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
There's I cannot split squat your way out of that stuff. Like it's just not going to happen. So, but I've learned a lot about boundaries, especially with this entrepreneurial stuff. Let's work on this. And the person I was talking to was related a lot, but it had been like her secret. She's like, I've never talked to coaches about this. You do that too?
Mm.
I thought I was like going, off the range. I said, no, this is so big a part of what we do. Being on their team, being on the same side of the table, negotiating with your client, sometimes against the world, that's part of coaching. It's a big part.
Yeah, I love that so much. Yeah, that's a huge, huge part of it. And to just be the place that a client knows they can go to be honest and to vent and to open up. And, we've had clients come in who were like, this might end up being more of a therapy session today, but I gotta get some stuff off my chest. Like everything in our lives is intertwined. And that's why I've always really stressed doing this really comprehensive coaching, because it just doesn't make sense to me logically. We've got this one person, this one body, for your exercise stuff to be over here and your nutrition stuff to be over here, and then your others, like, yeah, of course, you want to stay in your scope of practice and you should refer people to therapists and all of that. Yes, all the disclaimers necessary. And also, it is not conducive to a healthy and productive results driven dynamic for you to shut down any conversation that veers slightly away from kind of your comfort zone, your exercise or your nutrition. Because the thing that is making it hard for someone to eat the way they need to for their goals, or to show up and do the workouts to the best of their ability, is the life stuff. It's everything else outside of that. So if you're just shutting down, like, oh, talk to a therapist about that, oh, talk to your husband, I can't help with that, you're not going to get to the root of why it's hard for them to be consistent or why they're struggling. And ultimately, if you care about getting them to the goal that you have discussed from the beginning, then you need to be willing to branch out a little bit and see kind of how the spider web of like how all of these things are playing a role in their lives and ultimately their success.
How much of that do you sort of explain and prepare clients for at the beginning of the relationship? Frequently, at least for myself, it's normal for someone to come and say, hey, my knee hurts. I hear you do like lots of joint pain stuff. Just make my knee feel better. It's like, we might be able to do that. I have 20 more questions and I'm going to ask about your wife. And like, and I don't say that, but we get into it and tease out and say, great. So, we're going to work on a bunch of lifestyle things to make this better and explain load versus capacity and all of that. How much of that do you kind of front load the relationship with, and how much of it just makes itself obvious over time?
That's a great question. I haven't really thought about that before, but I think just inherently in the content I put on social media, the way I conduct consults, it's pretty clear from the jump for the same reasons you said, that it's not just, okay, how much weight do you want to lose? How long do we have? What gym equipment do you have? When I'm talking to somebody, it's tell me about your job, tell me about your family, tell me about, what you like to do for fun. I think in by nature of getting to know the person from the beginning, they're getting the feel that like, oh, okay, she's not just like gonna give me a day of the week template. And we do, like, when we kind of talk through what coaching looks like, I I use kind of a three-layered pyramid example where I'm like, exercise and nutrition stuff, the stuff that you're like hung up on right now, that's the tip of the pyramid. Yes, it matters, of course it does. And also, there's a lot more to it that's beneath the surface that you might not have even realized. And you might feel at times that we're kind of going off the reservation or were taking a turn that you weren't expecting. A obvious example being alcohol. Nobody comes to
Yep.
me saying I want to evaluate my relationship with alcohol, but many of my clients do. And that's one of those sort of tangents where you're just like, you might not have been expecting this to come up, but I have been, because of course it's going to. So I think it, just by the way I kind of position it, it's apparent. You might not know exactly where we're going to go, but you're prepared that it's going to be deeper and different than you would maybe expect from a trainer or somebody who's like just trying to help you lose weight.
Yeah, showing up as that authentic, curious, interested coach from the beginning, like sets the stage and sets the expectations as to these are the sort of conversations we're going to have all the time. These are the
Mm-hmm.
kind of questions I'm going to ask, and it's super normal. Yeah, I'm going to ask about your bathroom habits. I'm like, depending on what you're doing, like I might ask if sex is painful. I might ask all kinds of stuff, and we're gonna have these totally normal conversations about totally normal stuff. And if that doesn't work, they bounce off right away. It doesn't happen
Mm-hmm.
very often, but
Mm-hmm.
occasionally they say, I just wanted a meal plan or I just wanted a 30-day shred. You're like, great. I'm not your guy. I'm
Right.
legit not your guy. I know some people who do things like that. I can give you their names, but that's not my thing. Or you've set the expectation that this is going to be a lot. And I know you want to get to the sports skill strength stuff that's so sexy. We're going to spend all this time on recovery and your rest and your energy and your hydration and all of that so that we can do the cool sexy stuff. I'm not anti the sexy stuff. I think that points to a bigger thing that you mentioned it obliquely earlier, that the reason people are coming to coaches, I think, and the best reason to hire a coach truly is for that coach. It's not the magic programming. It's not the magic meal plan. It's not the magic modality. It's not because they're going to order whatever blood test for you and interpret it in a new magical way. All of that stuff is available for free. Infinite information is now at our fingertips. It's all there. But a person that you connect with and vibe with who genuinely wants to be on your side, and you can put that amount of trust and kind of offload this bit from your plate, that's enormous. People are coming to you for you, not for whatever the cool program is called.
1,000%. Do you follow Mike Dola, the founder of Stronger You?
I know that name. I'm not remembering who it is.
Yeah, he's great. He founded Stronger You, which is a nutrition coaching company that sold
Oh, sure,
for,
sure, sure. Yep.
yeah, an undisclosed amount of money. But he's very aligned with like practical, relatable, results oriented, and he's posted a lot as AI has become bigger about, if you're a coach and you're shaking in your boots about being replaced by AI, you need to reevaluate what it is that you're offering to clients in the first place.
Yeah.
Because if it has just been a meal plan or a workout program, like you said, not only are they available for free everywhere you look, but now you can talk to a bot and you can say, here are my limitations, here are my preferences, and you can get something, more customized. So if that's been what you've been selling, you got to be thinking of something else. And I've been so grateful that I have enough experience coaching to not be worried about that at all. I know that's not the value that we're providing, and it's exactly what you said. So I think it's comforting. There are frustrations for being in the field for so long and kind of seeing the same cycles play out, but it's also reassuring to be able to say, I know that 15 years ago I would have been nervous because I did think what I was offering people was a workout, and to now have the confidence and the foundation to be like, oh, that's not something to worry about. Same thing with GLP-1s. There's so many coaches who have taken this kind of oppositional stance of, it's cheating or whatever. And, that to me is like, yes, you're welcome to your own opinions for your personal body about medications and things like that. But
Sure.
if you are putting, drawing the line in the sand and telling prospective clients, if you are considering this, I will not work with you, you're doing yourself a disservice. So if you feel threatened by, once again, a tool that could potentially help people reach their goals in conjunction with all of the other tools that you know you can help them with, I think you're going to be in a tough spot. So all of that to say that, I think having the experience and having been around long enough to align yourself with, sure, yeah, that's not that's not going to replace what I do. That's not a threat to my livelihood or to that of my clients. Is a comforting place to be.
I completely agree. And I think so much of it comes down to genuine empathy and human connection and wanting to actually help people and not
Yeah,
necessarily just put, the maximum followers through the maximum template, etc. And having like a truly pursuing a growth mindset of there's so many people in the world who need a little bit of help. There's plenty of coaches. As far as I'm concerned, we're all on the same team.
yep,
And especially if you align with me, like I will refer people to you all day long. I think we're all in the same team, moving in the same direction, helping the same bunch of people. The folks who are like, oh no, AI's coming for my job and GLP-1s are coming for my job. And I would never refer someone to a physical therapist who's going to give them some other program or let someone like, you are so far off base. And that tells me that what's in your tiny little compound is probably not very valuable. If
hmm
if even someone looking in and seeing it is a threat, then we might need to really reevaluate how you're quote unquote helping people because
yeah,
my doors are wide open and I'll show anyone anything about any part of it, not because it's so amazing, but because again, that's not the magic. That's not what it is.
yeah. I remember again early days, probably I don't know, 10 plus years ago. I
Mhm.
had created a spreadsheet that did like macro calculations for me, so I wasn't having to plug in. First I
Yeah,
convert to
ditto.
yeah, and I shared it in some sort of like trainer Facebook group, and remember how many people were shocked by like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing this. You just saved me so much time. I can't believe it. And just like realizing how I don't know, stingy is not the right word, but like how many people were like reluctant to share anything because that felt like what they had that was of value, and just being like,
Yeah,
oh, like literally anyone could have made this spreadsheet. Like we could all make it individually and end up with the exact same thing. I just like saved you a little bit of time. That's not the. I always laugh when coaches will offer like free macro calculations or a macro check or something. And I'm like, we're all working with the same equations here. Like we all have our own preferences
yeah,
that you start with a 10% deficit and I like to do, this much protein. But like there's I guess there's some value in that to some people, but like that's not it. That's if that's the thing you're hanging your hat on, you have missed the mass, like this iceberg underneath the surface of like all the value that you could have, and you're just like really you're still at the very tip.
yeah. That's like you think you're the guy who invented the shovel. You don't want anyone else to look around and see someone digging with sticks. You're like, no, no, no. Like we everyone has. These are really basic tools. And sure, brand new coaches who haven't figured that part out yet, like, let's give them a leg up. Let's just hand the tools to them and then explain how we use it and explain how whatever number you get, that's not the thing you're going to say to a client, or probably not. Like,
Right.
also evaluate A, B, C, D. And if you're interested, we can go deeper and deeper and deeper. And now that coach is actually coming and hiring me to be their mentor for a while so we can really dig into how you work with people and listen to them and get results. Not I don't want anyone to see my stupid shovel.
Such a good analogy. Yes.
And it all comes around. I remember the first time I saw similar to because I built a big macro spreadsheet that had like 4 or 5 different formulas and would average things out and spit it for male weighted and male unweighted and all this other stuff. And the first time I saw an RP spreadsheet back when they sold just the Excel
Uh-huh.
workout things, and it was just like would progress people every week. And I knew coaches who were terrified. Well, why would anyone pay me? Like, they can just do this. Like, I don't even know Excel, but I know that's easy. Like, if you're just adding 5% every week and that's the extent of your coaching, then I don't think people should pay you. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
But if again, back to human connection, understanding, being curious and asking people questions they might not ask themselves will set you apart from most coaches. And certainly, I'm comfortable saying AI for the next 5 to 10 years at a minimum, and the understanding part for a very, very long time.
You mentioned earlier coaches having coaches, and I think,
Yep.
if a newer coach is listening, one of the best things you can do for yourself is hire a coach and get to experience it yourself. I worked with a business coach for a while, and she didn't have a program. She wasn't moving me through a formula. We met once a week, and she basically said, what's on your mind? How can I help? And the value I saw from that, and I would very, very often, I would start off being like, yeah, I don't know, not really much. Things are pretty good. And next thing you know, I'm just kind of like word vomiting. All of these things are on my mind. And even when, and
Crying
you
about
know,
retention.
right, yes, exactly. And like a good coach, she did a lot more listening and a lot more probing than she did talking. She wasn't saying, "Oh, here's what you need to do." She didn't even work. She wasn't fitness specific. She was just a generic business coach. The number of times that I would say, A, I don't have any problems, and then B, realize that I did, and then C, solve them all just in like one one word vomit was massive. And I realized how much value there is in just having that space to get things out of your brain. And it's the same for our clients, that most of us are, waking up to immediately deal with kids, to go to work and deal with all of that, to then immediately start dealing with kids again. And it's like we just don't have time in our day where we're stopping and focusing on ourselves. We're not even thinking about thinking. It's just there's just not time for it. So to know, or to get to experience having time on your calendar that is just for you, where whatever comes up is okay and can be talked through. If you, as a coach, experience that yourself, you have a whole new perspective on the value you're providing to your clients. And then you'll be so much less concerned about all of this, outside stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. I tell coaches all the time, especially newer coaches, like you need to have the client experience. And ideally, something kind of like what you're doing, but outside of it. So
Hmm.
my general rule, like, don't hire your friends. Don't
Hmm.
hire whatever like cool coaching education you got. Don't hire any of those people. Find someone else.
Hmm.
Find someone who doesn't think you're cool and doesn't even know you're a coach and is
Right.
going to charge you something you can afford, but is maybe a little uncomfortable, like feels like an investment, and ask you to do some stuff. And no matter how it goes, it will make you a better coach.
Yes.
If it's awful, you are going to learn a bunch of things you never want to do. And you're going to watch someone make, I've had across the spectrum experiences with the coaches. And some of the most valuable stuff has been, oh, well, I'm never going to do that. That felt awful. And I felt ignored or not listened to, or I don't even know if this guy is looking at my stuff. I want to make sure that I never make a client feel that way. And the good stuff will completely change not only your business and your approach, but it will make you a better person.
Completely agree.
Esther, I feel like we could do this for hours. This is
I
an
know.
enormous amount of fun, but I want to be respectful of your time. Tell people where they should go to find more about Esther.
The easiest is my website, esteraavant.com. It has links to my speaking, my coaching, my book, my podcast, social media. I'm most active on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And I would love to connect, whether you're a client, coach, just however you heard this episode. I love to chat. This has been so fun. Just a very, very good example of just like the opportunity to kind of vent and chat and get somebody's perspective. It just feels good to have somebody listen to you and relate back to you. So this has really been my pleasure.
Yeah, I completely agree. I will do this with you absolutely anytime. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Feel Strong podcast. If you want to reach out about solving your fitness problems, find us on Instagram at FeelStrongFit or apply to get started now on our website, feelstrong.me. Subscribing, rating, and sharing this podcast is an enormous help and has more impact than you know. Thank you for doing that if you're able. If you feel stuck, if you know where you want to go but you aren't sure how to get there, reach out. It's what we do.